Hey gang, hope you guys are doing well. Back here with another video. Thank you so much for the recent support. It means the whole world to me. Subscribers and all, and comments and likes and all that good stuff. Today I've got a bit of a shorter build video. I'm going to try this out instead of an entire guide. I'm just going to show off a build. You still give some modding advice, but generally it's going to be focused on this frame, this build, this loadout, nothing more. Keeping it a little bit shorter for the folks who don't have nearly as much time to watch my entire marathon of videos. Vauban this is Helldiver Vauban, I call it. Basically, you know, it's all about deploying the stratagems, the abilities, playing tactically, all that good stuff. And as you can see, I got a pretty good fit on. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out for the thumbnail and for the video. Vauban is unfortunately one of the weaker frames in the game, in my opinion. And that's because he lacks innate survivability. If your Warframe doesn't come with survivability off rip in the kit, it means you have to like outsource it to another source. Like generally it's gonna be like Eclipse. Or you're just gonna be shield gating. And shield gating, while cool if you're built for it, even when you are built for it, it's just a really boring way to survive. It really sucks. His main survivability is armor, which is just gets really outdated really quick, which is pretty rough. But Vauban, in terms of killing things, now he does that very, very well. Vauban's in the era of crowd control and overguard. Vauban reminds us that the best crowd control is to just kill the crowd outright, which means that his CC ends up not having as much value as it should. But again, this build is quite good. It kind of plays into Vauban's ability to play him in a diverse set of ways. A lot of his two of his abilities to do two different things. We do have his Tesla Nervo subsumed off of him, but we'll talk about that later. Anyways, let's get to the build. Description: Vauban is a good frame. He just needs like some sort of update to survivability. It's just whack. Some of his mechanics are awful, but that's all for a Vauban guide down the line. For now, let's focus on Helldiver Vauban. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe, like, whatever, all that BS. Alrighty, starting with Archon shards here. I've got Parker Velocity, Casting Speed, 2 Strengths, and Equilibrium Shard. Equilibrium shards are just generally good for like energy economy. None of these are required. Casting speed is violently helpful. I suggest it if you can get your hands on it. The strength is whatever. Parkour velocity is honestly not really needed here. I just like having one on almost every single frame. So let's get into the build here. I'll go mod by mod, kind of explain if things are interchangeable, so on and so forth. So first I have corrosive projection. This one is one of the most interchangeable because this build has multiple ways to strip armor, and do it really fast. So corrosive projection here is definitely removable. It's just very convenient because once I get into what Bastille does, you'll understand why I feel the need to run it regardless. But I would say this is the most interchangeable. I've just had it on him like for a long time, so I keep it on. Power drift. Power strength is quite helpful. It increases the status chance of our ability, damage of Photon Strike, so on and so forth. Primed continuity. Duration. This is the only mod we have here for duration. The main reason we want this is for for Bastille it's fine. Tempest Barrage, it's good to have some duration, but really it's going to be for the duration of our Flechettes and our Overdriver. These are the 2 orbs we're using. I'll talk about those in a minute. Energy Nexus is good for energy economy. Not fairly interchangeable depending on like how you decide to get energy, but it's pretty good. Intensify, strength, it's just kind of damage. Archon Stretch, this is not nearly as useful. I run it on Vauban all the time. Again, normally we have Tesla Nervos and in turn Tesla Bank. If you don't have Hydroid subsumed for Tempest Barrage, you could run this build with base Vauban. It'll do really well. Not quite the same, but similar because Tesla Bank's a pretty good augment. Viral Tempest here is for Hydroid's Tempest Barrage. It makes it so not only are we applying corrosive, but we're also applying a ton of viral. This is really good. When I show you how it works, you'll understand. Unfortunately, it's rolling guard. I don't care to run this augment or this mod, but it's one of our ways we're going to survive. That and shield gating as well. And then auger reach. This is just additional range. We don't need a ton of range. 175 will do the trick. Having extra would be kind of fun, but it does reduce the power strength quite a bit, and we kind of want more of that. Also, people don't really know this about Vauban, but Bastille and Vortex kind of are hurt by a lot of range because of all sorts of old spaghetti code BS, like the way enemies get grabbed by Vortex. Bastille will lock enemies away out of your line of sight because they're getting CC'd from so far away. And the last mod is Photon Repeater. Photon Strike augment. If Photon Strike it hits at least 5 enemies, the next cast will cost no energy and fire a second strike. This one is pretty important to your energy economy. But speaking of energy economy, Arcane Battery. You can run flow somewhere in here, like over Energy Nexus if you want, but Battery gives us energy for having armor, which Bastille provides a ton of armor, up to 1,000, which is quite good. It ends up making our energy pool a lot more sustainable. And then multi-augmented for the strength. This is mainly, again, for the damage from Photon Strike, the buff from Overdriver, and armor strip from Bastille, and then status chance Tempest Barrage. So we're going to go over what the abilities do. As you can see, this is the build, and then I will show the weapon as well, just the build at least. This is a very simple, go ahead screenshot, there you go. I'm not going to go over like everything. Here's the ribbon, and then screenshot. I run secondary fortifier here. The reason for that is because Vauban needs it, basically. If I run into an Nexus enemy who's not getting lifted by my Bastille, I blow his brains out with the fortifier, and now I've got an extra layer of survivability, and I don't feel like my heart rate is going through the roof. We also have the Zenistar. This thing just looks cool as shit. It also, like, does kind of cool things. It's mainly just an aura farming weapon. It's not a super big deal. I'm running Zeneric for energy, and then Death Cube with this build here. The main thing is Guardian is another means of survivability, but Manifold Bond is quite good, brings it up all the time. Contagious Bond is just good for status. Energy Generator, also good for energy economy. And here's my Tazakor build. Nothing particularly amazing here. Okay, now we're going to go over a little demonstration of the abilities so you can understand what the goal of this build is. Alright, now we are going to go ability by ability, kind of demonstrating how they work on their own, and as well as how they work together. So first is Tempest Barrage, which is Hydroid's one that we're subsumed on. As you can see, these little missiles come from the sky, and they're going to hit enemies, and these enemies instantly have, not instantly, being a little dramatic on that, they're going to have 10 of each viral and corrosive, and as to the damage is actually like fairly relevant too. This is also why you would make the case for green shards for the full corrosion. That way you can full strip. Unfortunately, Hydroid's ability, just the way it applies armor strip is by applying corrosive status, which is fine. It just means that you can't full strip, like, you know, a Terrify could be built to full strip, Thorough Strike, so on and so forth. It's a very good ability, and it displaces enemies pretty good. It's just solid damage. It's just raining from above, and it's going to apply a ton of viral for us, a ton of corrosive. As we get more power strength, it'll more easily apply these things. And yeah, it's pretty solid. Moving on, as hell rains on him. Okay, we have the Tether Orb. I'm going to go over the two kind of irrelevant abilities that are funny. Like, these are like, the joke is that these are like stratagems from Helldivers too. That's the bit. It's a pretty fun build. I really enjoy it. So our next ability here is Tether Orb. It'll grab up to 2 targets from a range, yoink them in. There we go. Okay. As you can see, grabs them, displaces them, sets them up for a ground finisher if that's something that you're feeling like you want to do. This one is not going to be used often. It can be used to pull enemies into another one of your abilities that I'll show you in a moment, but generally Tether Orb will not be used. It's just a funny ability. It's kind of silly. That's all. Next, Vector Pad, our other little stratagem here. Throw it down and you sling yourself. It's pretty fun. I'm not gonna no one ever uses this ability to my knowledge, but I'll be damned if it's not fun. Like, look at that. Like, okay, they could have just made this a speed buff and make him useful, but not make it a meme ability, man. I'm gonna accidentally send myself flying at some point here. God. Anyway, okay. Oh shit, fuck, okay. Sorry. Moving on. Overdriver. This is like the kind of, this is the best one in my opinion, if not the second best little mine from Minelayer. Basically, you pop it onto yourself, or it can fly to find a teammate. I believe it can also attach to your companion as well, and it basically just gives you a damage bonus to everything, including your Flechette Orbs, which I will deploy now. This little guy fires out little flechettes that will apply puncture and blow enemies away. Now the damage that these do, actually I believe scales with the levels of enemies, which is just really, really good. Eventually it'll wear this guy down, but you have to understand that he's going to also be having corrosive and viral applied to him, which means he's going to fall over really, really fast when those two abilities start working in tandem. And we still have 2 more abilities to go. So let me just reset these enemies here for you, and we'll continue with the demonstration. Okay, so moving forward, we have Photon Strike. This ability is one that I usually take off of Vauban, but for the sake of Helldiver Vauban, I'm keeping it on, purely for aesthetics, because I think it's pretty cool. So you just send up this orb, and it sends out down a little Photon Strike that blasts enemies away. It deals like pretty mediocre damage on its own, but thankfully we're not using it on its own. So if we hit 5 or more enemies, just like Photon Repeater, you see in the upper right hand, I've got that little icon that matches the Photon Repeater icon. This means I've got the second free strike down. So I'll press 3, it will consume no energy, and send 2 Photon Strikes down. And as you can see, I can get Photon Repeater again. And again. That's why it's called Repeater, you feel me? Anyways, now you can kind of see where this build's going, I have to imagine. This will be like the icing on the cake here. We have Bastille and Vortex. This is a tap hold situation. The tap cast is Bastille. What this does is it saps armor from enemies and gives us armor. The armor is located in the upper right hand there, where the little infinity icon is. I have 1,000 additional armor as it stands. When I walk out of Bastille, it actually has a duration attached to it, which is why Arcane Battery doesn't feel like total dog water, is because I can at least have the buff for a little bit. I don't have to be fully in my Bastille, but you will be spending the majority of your time in your Bastille. The Bastille collapses at the end of its duration, which leaves for a few seconds this little vortex here. Now I'm sure you can see where this is going. Let's remove this opposition here, and oh, goodbye. Okay, and now you can kind of see where this is going. Likewise, when you hold cast Bastille, you get a vortex, which is pretty important. Note that you can recast the hold to collapse all Bastilles, and you will get the full duration out of the vortex. If you don't do this and you let the duration end on its own, then the vortex will only last 3 seconds, which is not a bad thing. It's a choice. A lot of people don't really understand that when they're playing Vauban. Sometimes all you want is a few seconds on that vortex. So I'm going to spawn some new enemies, and I'll show you kind of what the full combo looks like. Okay. So first I will overdrive myself. Place a Flechette Orb or 2 down. Bastille. The enemies will have their armor mostly stripped. I will collapse it, and then Photon Strike. Fire my little Nightwatch Napalm in there as a finishing touch. Normally you could spam Photon Repeater down, and normally I'd even get my Tempest Barrage in there, but you don't really, for this build, you don't really have to do the full setup. You don't have to send down every stratagem in the book, just like the real game. But if I respawn enemies, they respawn right back into their deaths. Yeah, Vauban is a meat killing machine. He's pretty practical at it. When we go into the demonstration, you'll understand why it's really easy to struggle, because really his only problem is survivability. Give this Warframe some form of like overguard. Maybe give him overguard vamp on his ultimate. Or on his Bastille. I don't know. But this Warframe is so gosh darn fun. You just you don't get to survive, and it makes it really frustrating. So I'll pop the combo here. 1. And this is no overdrive, by the way. This is just popping 3. Only the 2 strong, the heavy gunners, they live. And I've got a Photon Repeater for them, unfortunately, so they're no longer with us. Yeah, this frame is good. It's just a little bit rough. You're still going to be popping Bastilles, by the way. And note that Bastille does not give a buff if you don't have enemies in it. I don't believe they have to have armor. I think they just have to be in it, and then it'll suck up. It'll give you armor. I don't believe it's actually like a armor translation like some other abilities are. But yeah, we're gonna do a little demonstration, like 5-minute survival or whatever, and I'll show you kind of the struggles of this build. But it's still super fun. I'm not saying this is like the objective Vauban build. I just think it's incredibly fun. All right, gang, we've got the demonstration ahead of us. So we'll use Zeneric, pop that. One of the most valuable assets to Vauban, aside from teammates providing some, hopefully some form of survivability, is a room that he likes. So we're gonna do that. We've got this little room. This is a room I used to test in all the time. The enemies are approaching. Where we throw our Bastille stratagem is kind of relevant, so I'm gonna place it right here. We don't want it to go out too far because the enemies are out of our line of sight. We're gonna let enemies get armor stripped here. We will overdrive ourselves. As you can see, our max energy has increased quite a bit. And then when we pull, because Bastille for some reason has a enemy cap, Tempest Barrage, Photon. As you can see, those enemies are definitely no longer with us. We can also pop out our Zenostar if we want. This has a 20-second duration with my build, not anything crazy. And as our Vortex ends, we just put a new Bastille down. The Vortex will expire, leading enemies to end up in a Bastille, and we just do it again. Overdriver, get the Flechettes out, and when we're ready, pull them in, like so. Vauban is one of the few frames that, at least this is in my opinion, Vauban like still really archaically relies on tile sets to like function, which is pretty embarrassing. Again, if you have teammates, it's kind of a different story. But I kind of just have a miserable time whenever I try to play this frame out in the open. Like, I have to sit there and like slowly advance using using Bastilles, throwing a bunch of those down, and the frame just does not feel excellent to play. But if you can find like a good room, then he's really the shit. I don't know where these enemies are caught at. The Vortex will start grabbing them. As you can see, I peeked out for 2 seconds and lost all of my shields. So let's pop this down. And like, you can spend a little bit of time outside, especially if you're able to get. I say as I get my forehead nuked and I knock myself over with my Ogress. Lord. Anyway, okay, good. I still some override from him. So yeah, basically the goal is to properly cycle your Bastille and Vortex. So you'll collapse the Vortex into itself, or you'll collapse the Bastille, get a new Bastille down, so on and so forth. Get the enemies in there. Flechette Orbs are going to kind of act like turrets. They will kill enemies inside, but you also kind of want to throw them outside a little bit to help you out. Especially with where enemies, again, you're kind of like an enemy manager when you're playing this frame. It's a little weird. As you can see, I can somewhat step outside of my boundaries here. But when I enter like new area, it becomes a little bit scarier. Like, okay, I've exposed myself to so much gunfire, and this frame just can't really survive on his own. Again, if I've got a Vauban build that uses Eclipse, and it's remarkably cozy. But that's not what we're looking for. We're playing Helldiver Vauban. Okay, I've got something I'm up to, bud. All right, let's see. So we've got a ton of enemies here. I'll try to advance here. So as you can see, I'll throw hello. I'll throw it on the Bastille, throw it on this, collapse it, throw a warhead on their forehead. But as you can see there, you probably only saw it for a second. One of the most blood-boiling, I'll dodge that Blitz Eximus real quick, don't mind if I do. Bastille again, to advance forward. One of the most frustrating parts about Vauban is the way that his abilities interact with doors. Oh my god, I can't think of a thing that makes me angrier in this world. Okay, probably not, but like, you know what I'm saying. Genuinely, oh my god, if DE fixed the way that Vortex interacts with doors, I would, like, we're one step closer to world peace, and I'm not doing a bit, okay? Alright, oh lord, okay, rolling guard. So as you see, every time I advance to a new room, I need to Bastille. It's kind of like my vibe check into the room to make sure I'm not gonna instantly fall over and die. This open space is not favorable for me, so I'm gonna back on up a little bit here. I've got an Acolyte on the way, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I get all of my Flechettes down, overdrive myself, Tempest, Rolling Guard, and Pray. Just kite around. Yeah, he dies to the Flechettes. So yeah, whenever the scary Acolyte man comes up to you, or woman, I suppose, pulls up to the function, you're just going to want to cast every single ability on yourself, and then pray to whatever god you believe in, or lack thereof. Usually actually pans out pretty well. Like I said, Vauban's good at killing, so if you can kill whatever is making you scared, not a big deal. Okay, of course, ancient healers unfortunately exist, so enemies can get a surplus of overguard. The best we can do is use it against them. So as you can see, we've acquired 15,000 overguard because of Fortifier. If you don't have Fortifier, no shame. Holy moly, I dropped a nuke on that guy. If you don't have Fortifier, no shame. It's just, like, it helps this poor guy a lot. And man, I really hope they give Vauban some survivability, because it's just a real shame, man. He just doesn't scale that well into the game, and it's about time to leave. So I'll head out, and we'll do our little conclusion bit, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Talk to you in a second. Alrighty, we made it back to the Sanctum here, and yeah, I just wanted to make a video on a Warframe build that I thought was fun, on a Warframe that I think is a little bit weak, because for me it's good practice for making a video. I will do the combo here for you guys one time here, but yeah, this build is like very clearly strong. If you have teammates, it gets a whole lot stronger because again they're buffing you, they're pulling fire off you. Vauban still does one thing in this game uncontestedly pretty well, and that's grouping. The way he does it with Vortex, especially in open tiles, is incredibly good. Bastille is really good CC. Overdriver you can apply to teammates, but basically the goal of this build is to Bastille everything together, Vortex it, drop a nuke on its forehead, and call it a day. The Helldiver Vauban's super simple. You just have a bunch of tools here, you know, debuffs from the sky, a bomb from the sky, you know, Vortex, Bastille, Tether Orbs, little turrets that shoot out and spin everywhere, buffing, like you get a silly fun Vector Pad if you elect to use that. That's kind of just, it's purely an aesthetic build, but I think it's also quite good. If you play it in a team setting, I think you're gonna have a really good time. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you like more videos like this, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It shows me that this is kind of more content you want. I'm trying to really revise this format and make it something that's fun. If you have any questions, also leave them in the comment section below. And hope you guys enjoyed. Take care. Have a good night.